Okay, I want you to picture something with me.
Right, let's do it.
Close your eyes for a second.
Well, unless you're driving.
Right. Yeah, please do not close your eyes if you are behind the wheel.
Yeah.
But if you're not, just imagine you are standing in the middle of this vast open field.
Okay.
It's early morning, the air is really crisp, and you are holding a compass.
Like a classic navigation scenario.
Exactly, but there is a very specific kind of anxiety happening here. You are meticulously checking the coordinates on this compass.
Sweating the details.
Right, you need to be facing exactly east or west, depending on, where you are in the world.
Sure.
And you're adjusting your feet by mere inches. You're checking the exact angle of your shoulders. You are totally hyper-focused because you've been told your entire life that this precise geometry is the key.
The key to being accepted.
Yeah.
The key to being considered quote-unquote good.
Yeah, you're thinking, if I am 3 degrees off, does it even count? Is the connection totally broken?
It's a heavy burden.
It is, and you are strictly focused on the direction of your face. But here's the twist. While you're staring at that compass dial right behind you, someone is starving.
Or someone is being robbed.
Right, or someone is literally crying out for help, and you do not notice.
You don't even hear them.
You literally don't hear them because you are so entirely consumed by the ritual of the direction.
I mean, that image right there really encapsulates the central conflict we are going to unpack today.
It really does.
It's this massive tension between the direction of prayer and the direction of life.
And it's a huge topic. Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. Today we are looking at a stack of sources that are honestly, they are pretty revolutionary.
They really challenge the baseline of what we think we know.
Yeah, we are diving into a specific set of verses from the Quran, specifically Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 177 to 179. But just to be clear, we are not doing a theological sermon here today.
No, not at all.
We're looking at these sources through a very specific and almost ruthless pragmatic lens.
Ruthless is definitely the right word for it. The material we have in front of us today challenges the very core definition of the word righteousness.
Right. The Arabic term is Birr, B-I-R-R.
Exactly. And the argument the sources are making is that humanity has completely misunderstood what that word actually means.
We've turned it into a checklist.
We have. But the sources argue it is not a checklist at all. It's actually an architecture.
An architecture of social justice, yeah. The sources start with this really provocative question. Does righteousness just mean turning your face east or west?
Is that really it?
Right? Like, is God really just impressed by your geography? Or is it something a lot bigger?
If we look closely at the text, specifically the commentary provided, it argues that we have this ingrained human tendency to confuse the mechanics of a ritual with the actual purpose of the ritual.
The mechanics versus the purpose.
Yeah, it's the difference between the shell and the pearl.
Oh, man. I really want to spend some time on this analogy because when I saw it in the notes, I thought it was just brilliant. The oyster analogy.
It is probably the perfect metaphor for how institutions and even just people decay over time.
Yeah. So lay it out for us.
Okay, so imagine a pearl. The pearl is the value, right? It's the precious object. In our context, it represents actual justice, kindness, the tangible betterment of human life.
And then you have the oyster shell.
Right. The shell is the structure. It's the ritual itself. It's the form.
And its whole evolutionary purpose is just to protect the pearl.
Exactly. To give it a house, to keep it safe. Now, what happens in what the sources call traditional religion?
Well, we get totally obsessed with the shell.
We do. We start polishing the shell.
We carve these intricate designs into the shell. We have massive debates about the exact shade of gray the shell is supposed to be.
Yeah, we build massive museums just to display the shells. We give out awards for who has the shiniest shell in the community.
But if you actually pry that shiny shell open,
it's completely empty.
Just empty space.
It's just calcium carbonate. There's no treasure inside at all. And the sources argue that this is exactly where society often lands.
We preserve the empty shell.
Right, the specific pronunciation of the Arabic words, the exact angle of the bow, the traditional dress codes.
But we've completely lost the pearl.
And the pearl in this specific analysis is Deen.
Okay, let's stop right there and define that. Deen, D-E-N, because this is a major distinction in our material today.
It's the crux of the whole argument.
Usually if I ask someone, hey, what is your deen? They just translate it as religion. Like, oh, my deen is Islam or Christianity or Judaism.
Right, that's the common usage.
But here, the sources are pitting religion and deen against each other, like they are mortal enemies.
It is a very sharp distinction. In this analysis, religion with a capital R is defined as that mechanical traditionalism we were just talking about.
The outer shell.
Exactly, the outer shell. It is all about rituals performed just for their own sake. And crucially, it relies heavily on what the text calls afterlife escapism.
Afterlife escapism. I mean, that sounds like a really heavy criticism.
It's intended to be. The argument is that religion tells you to perform these rituals now mechanically, and if you don't see any real results...
Like if your life doesn't actually get any better.
Right, or if your society is still crumbling and poverty is everywhere, religion just says, we'll just wait.
Don't worry about the misery right now. You will get the reward after you die.
Exactly. It's that whole pie-in-the-sky concept.
It placates people.
It does. It tells them to just tolerate massive injustice because the real life, the good life, is later.
And the sources call this self-deception.
Yes. They use a very striking analogy about fire and wood to explain why this mindset is so incredibly dangerous.
Oh, right. The wood analogy. I have that right here. So the scenario is, it's the dead of winter. You are freezing.
Freezing to death.
And you have a pile of wood.
So what do? In the religious mindset, you stack the wood perfectly.
Right, you admire the wood.
You sit right next to the wood. You might even pray to the wood.
But you don't actually light it.
You never light it. And you're sitting there shivering, saying, I'm sitting by the wood. I'm doing the ritual of the wood. Why on earth aren't I warm?
And religion says, just keep sitting there. You'll get warm in the afterlife.
It's incredibly bleak when you frame it that way.
It really is.
Whereas Deen, the system, or the way of life, says you are freezing because you lack the spark.
You have to actually strike the match.
You have to light the fire. Deen is about generating actual warmth right now. It demands tangible results in this world.
Which brings us to what the sources refer to as the pragmatic test.
Yes, this is the core thesis of our entire deep dive today. This architecture of social justice that these verses are describing is not some mystical journey.
It's practical.
Very. It is a system that demands a pragmatic test for every single action.
This is the doctor analogy, right?
That's the one. Let's play this out because it makes it so clear. You go to a doctor. You have a really terrible fever.
Okay, I'm sick.
The doctor gives you a prescription. You take the medicine, but the fever doesn't break.
So I go back.
Right? And he gives you the exact same medicine again.
Yeah.
You take it. And let's say you take it for 40 years and the fever never ever breaks.
I mean, at some point I have to admit the medicine just isn't working.
Or the doctor's diagnosis was completely wrong.
Right.
You don't just keep taking the pills hoping they suddenly start working after you die.
The cure is correct.
Exactly. The sources are arguing that if your faith, your system of belief, does not result in personal growth and collective security in this world right now, then it is failing the test.
It's bad medicine.
It's bad medicine.
So if we look around at our society today and we see rampant poverty, we see crime, we see everyone dealing with massive anxiety, the source is basically saying don't blame God for that. Blame your prescription.
Precisely. Blame the fact that you are worshiping the shell and completely ignoring the pearl.
Wow.
So the real question becomes, how do we actually find the pearl? And the text provides a literal blueprint for it.
A blueprint for a society that actually functions, and it starts with the foundation. So let's get into section 1, redefining belief, or Ayman.
Now, hold on a second. Usually when we hear the words belief or faith, specifically the word Ayman, we tend to think of blind acceptance.
Right, like I believe there is a monster under my bed.
Or I believe in this specific dogma, just because my grandmother told me to when I was 5.
Yeah, it's usually framed as the direct opposite of reason, like taking a leap of faith.
But the sources translate Ayman very differently here. They don't call it blind faith. They call it conviction. Specifically, conviction in law.
Conviction in law? I mean, that sounds very legalistic. Or even scientific.
It is absolutely intended to be scientific. Think about the concept of gravity.
Okay.
You don't just have faith in gravity in some mystical, hopeful sense. You don't wake up in the morning and hope that gravity decides to work today.
No, I just know it will.
You have an absolute, unwavering conviction that if you hold out a pen and let it go, it will fall to the floor.
Because it's a law.
Exactly. That is a universal law. The sources argue that Ayman is having that exact same level of scientific certainty in the moral laws of the universe.
So it's not just sitting around chanting God exists over and over again.
No, that's essentially meaningless if it doesn't fundamentally change your behavior.
Yeah.
The text outlines 5 specific elements of this conviction. They call it the ideological base.
Okay, let's go through them.
And the first one is, of course, God. But not just as some distant deity sitting on a golden throne in the clouds.
Right, the sources really emphasize God as the lawgiver.
Right. Think about those laws of nature again. Thermodynamics, aerodynamics.
You can't bribe gravity.
You cannot cheat thermodynamics either. You
Yeah.
can say, hey, look, I'm a really nice guy.
Mhm.
I give to charity, so please let me jump off this cliff and float.
Gravity does not care how nice you are.
It doesn't. And the argument here is that the moral laws of human society are just as rigid as physics.
Really?
Yes. If you build a society on injustice and exploitation, it will eventually collapse.
Yeah.
That is a law just like gravity. You cannot cheat it.
Okay, so that is God as the ultimate source of law. Then we get to the second element of conviction angels. And I have to be honest with you, this is where the sources took a turn that I was completely unprepared for.
How so?
Well, typically in basically every tradition, angels are these, winged beings. They play harps or they exist as messengers who fly down to deliver texts to prophets. They're supernatural entities.
Why, that's the classical image.
But the sources here, they seem to totally strip the wings off.
They absolutely do. The interpretation provided in this text is pretty radical. It views angels, the Arabic word is malaika, as the actual forces of nature.
The fundamental powers of the universe?
Yes.
Wait, stop. So you were saying the source claims there are no winged beings at all, that gravity itself is an angel, that the wind is an angel.
In this specific analytical context, yes. The forces that physically manage the universe. Wind, rain, physics, chemistry, the rotation of the planets.
That is wild.
The sources argue these are the angels or the agents of God's will operating in the physical realm.
Okay, that is a massive theological shift. But practically speaking, what is the point of redefining them that way? Why does it matter?
It matters because of the relationship between humans and these forces. The text brings up the story where it says the angels bowed to Adam, meaning they bowed to humanity.
Right, the original creation story.
So if angels are actually the forces of nature, what does it mean for a force of nature to bow to a human being?
I guess it means they submit to us.
It means they are conquerable. It means they can be harnessed by human intellect.
Oh, wow.
When we study and understand aerodynamics, the angel of wind bows to us, and suddenly we can fly airplanes.
That makes so much sense.
When we understand human biology and medicine, the forces of disease bow to us, and we can cure illnesses.
That literally turns the act of science into a religious act?
Precisely. That is the massive breakthrough here. Believing in angels in this context means recognizing that the universe is designed with these powerful forces that we are explicitly meant to study, to master, and to utilize for the common good.
It totally kills the whole idea of superstition.
Exactly. You don't cower in fear of the storm. You study the barometric pressure system so you can navigate right through the storm.
Which perfectly sets up the pilot analogy. I really like this one because it connects the third and fourth elements, the book and the prophets, with the fifth element, which is the afterlife.
It ties them all together beautifully. So we have the forces, the angels, but we need a manual on how to properly use them. That manual is the book.
And we need instructors to teach us the manual.
Right. Those are the prophets, the teachers. But then we have the ultimate destination, the afterlife, or akhirat.
And usually akhirat is just simply translated as heaven and hell.
Right, the place you go after you die. But the sources reinterpret this as the law of consequences, or the future result of your current actions.
Okay, so let's get into the pilot analogy. Imagine a pilot flying a plane through a pitch-black storm.
Right, you're in the cockpit.
I'm in the cockpit. I can't see the ground at all. I can't see the stars. The turbulence is crazy.
You are completely blind to the outside world. This represents the present moment. You cannot see the destination, the afterlife of your flight, because it's just too far away right now.
Right.
So what do you do in that cockpit? Do you just guess? Do you just close your eyes and hope really hard?
No, I look down at my instruments.
You trust the instruments. The instruments are the book. They are the law. You have absolute conviction that if you follow these specific coordinates, even though you can't physically see the runway, yet you will eventually arrive safely.
So faith isn't blind hope at all. It is trusting the navigation system.
Exactly. The pilot doesn't sit there saying, gee, I really hope there's a runway down there somewhere. He knows that if he follows the strict law of navigation, the result is mathematically inevitable.
That's an effect.
Yes. That is Itaman. It's not magic. It is pure cause and effect.
Okay, so we have the foundation built. We have this rational conviction in law. We are strapped into the cockpit. We trust our instruments, and we know the laws of physics. The angels will hold the plane up in the air.
We have the theory down.
Right. Now, what do we actually do with it?
We open our wallets.
Of course. I mean, it
Definitely.
always comes down to money, doesn't it? You really can't have a revolution without funding.
In this system, absolutely not. Section 2 is entirely about the economic engine of society, specifically a concept called infaq.
Infaq. Now, usually that's translated as spending or just giving charity, but the notes here emphasize the word circulation.
Circulation is the absolute key to understanding this. The verse acknowledges a very fundamental human truth, hubimau, the love of wealth.
Humans just love money.
We do. We love security. We love seeing that number in the bank account go up and up.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I like knowing I have a safety net. It's a very primal feeling. It's basic survival.
The desire for security is totally universal. But the source poses a massive challenge here. You cannot attain Birr. You cannot reach true righteousness until you willingly spend what you love.
And we're not just talking about the stuff you don't need anymore. Like, it's not just bagging up the old clothes in the back of the closet that don't fit and dropping them off at a donation bin.
No. It is the stuff you actively love. The wealth that actually makes you feel safe and powerful. You have to move it.
And this leads us to the open bag concept versus the tied bag.
I really love this visual.
So the religious view, or what the text calls the hoarding view, is a bag that is tied completely tight.
Right. You stuff your money in, you tie a tight knot at the top, and you shove it under your mattress.
That's totally stagnant.
It just sits there.
Hmm.
But in fact, the Deen view is a bag that is open at both ends.
Meaning wealth flows in, but it also flows right back out immediately.
It acts as a conduit. The source compares this constant movement of wealth to blood circulating in the human body.
This gets a little bit gross, but it is a very effective analogy. If blood just stops moving in your body...
It clots, you get heart attack, or
Yeah.
you get gangrene.
Gangrene. Yeah, yikes.
But think about it medically. If blood pools in one specific limb and doesn't reach the other extremities, the limb with way too much blood actually gets sick and swollen, and the limb with no blood literally dies and falls off.
Right.
The sources argue that wealth is the literal blood of the social body,
So if it pools in the hands of the ultra-rich, like the top 1%...
and it doesn't circulate down to the poor, the entire society develops economic gangrene.
So infaq isn't just charity. It's not just about being a nice person. It is a literal survival mechanism for the entire organism.
Correct. It is what keeps the society alive. And the sources are incredibly specific about exactly where this blood needs to flow. It's given us a targeted list, and the order of the list actually matters.
Let's walk through that list. Number 1 on the list is kin and relatives.
You always start with your immediate circle.
Now, honestly, this is sometimes the hardest one. I mean, it's really easy to just write a check to a faceless charity online. It is significantly harder to give your hard-earned money to your cousin who you know is terrible with finances, or your uncle who just annoys you at Thanksgiving.
It is much harder emotionally,
Yeah.
but systemically, it's also the most efficient. Think about it. If every single family unit simply took care of their own struggling members, the burden on the state would drop to nearly zero. It completely decentralizes the welfare state.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, number 2 on the list, orphans.
The most vulnerable members of society who have lost their natural protectors.
Right. Then number 3, the needy. Now, the source defines the needy in a very interesting way here. It's not just a blanket term for poor people.
No, it specifically describes them as those whose means have stopped.
Whose means have stopped. Give me an example of what that looks like in the real world.
Okay, think of a truck driver. He's a hardworking guy. He's not lazy. He puts in the hours. But one day, his transmission totally blows out.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the capital to fix the engine. His means of making a living have abruptly stopped. He has now officially become the needy.
So doing infaq in this scenario isn't just buying him a sandwich to hold him over.
No, a sandwich does not solve his actual problem. In fact, means you pay to fix his truck.
Oh, wow.
It means restoring his capacity to generate his own wealth. It's a capital injection. It's not just a temporary handout. You are getting the blood moving again so that specific limb can function on its own.
That is a huge distinction. It's entirely about restoring human dignity and economic capacity.
Exactly.
Okay, moving down the list, we have the traveler, the stranger, who is stranded in a new place without any local support network. And then finally, the 5th category, those in bondage.
This is a really powerful one. Using your wealth to actively liberate people. Now, historically in the 7th century, this meant literally buying slaves to free them.
Right.
But the sources expand this concept to mean anyone currently in subjugation.
Like debt bondage.
Debt bondage, systemic oppression, political prisoners.
Yeah.
You use your wealth to literally buy their freedom from whatever system is crushing them.
Which brings up the text's critique of the modern wage system. This part felt incredibly modern to me when I read it.
It is shockingly relevant to today's economy. The sources are deeply critical of the standard capitalist notion of a daily wage.
The idea that, hey, I paid you for your 8 hours of labor today, so it's not my problem if you still can't afford to feed your kids.
Right. The employer just says, well, I paid the fair market rate.
Yeah.
The text calls that the religious view the bare minimum technical compliance. You follow the rule on paper, but you entirely miss the point of the system.
So what does Deen require instead?
Deen requires ensuring the actual sufficiency of the worker.
But playing devil's advocate here for a second, if I'm a small business owner and I decide to pay everyone double the market rate just so they can be completely sufficient, I might just go out of business entirely.
And the source would argue back that if your specific business model fundamentally requires your workers to live in poverty just for you to make a profit, then your business model is essentially just a legal form of theft.
Yeah.
It means you're relying on the gangrene of your workers to keep yourself healthy. In fact, demands that the blood reaches every single cell. If a person works for you full-time and they still cannot afford to feed their children, you have failed the test of Birr.
So Birr, this concept of righteousness isn't just saying, hey, I prayed wipe off times today. It's asking, did my employee actually eat today? Is my neighbor safe right now?
Precisely. If the answer to those questions is no, then your prayer was just empty aerobics.
Empty aerobics.
You're just bending up and down on a map for no reason.
Empty aerobics. Man, that really hits hard. Okay, so we have the foundation, which is conviction, and we have the economy, which is the circulation of wealth. But a society obviously needs more than just money moving around to survive.
It needs glue.
Right, it needs trust.
Which takes us right into Section 3, the social contract.
The text places a huge emphasis on fulfilling the covenant. And we have another really great analogy here, the well.
The well and the rope. This is critical for understanding why seemingly strong societies suddenly collapse.
Okay.
Imagine you are drawing water from a very deep well. The water at the bottom represents the result. It's the social benefit, the life, the thriving economy.
But to get that water up to the surface, you need a rope.
Exactly. The rope represents the promise, the treaty, the social contract.
Right.
Now imagine you are pulling that heavy bucket up. You are sweating.
Yeah.
You are working incredibly hard, putting in the labor. But halfway up the shaft, the rope just snaps.
The bucket falls, splash, you get no water.
And all of that intense labor was completely wasted.
Right.
The sources argue that promises, whether they are legal contracts, international treaties, or just basic verbal agreements, are the rope.
So if people don't keep their word...
If a society develops a culture of breaking promises, the rope is completely rotten.
Wow.
You can work as hard as you want, you can have all the resources in the world, but you will never actually pull the water of social benefit to the surface. It'll always just crash back down.
This connects directly to the concept of AM, or mutual trust, right?
Yes, AM. It is the fundamental feeling of safety. The sources describe it as the ability to walk through a dense crowd of complete strangers and not feel even a drop of fear.
Which, let's be totally honest, in a lot of modern cities today is a massive luxury. We walk around constantly scanning our environment for threats.
That underlying anxiety you feel, that is the sound of the rope breaking.
Yeah.
That fear comes from a deep subconscious lack of a social contract. We simply don't trust that the stranger on the street respects the law. We don't trust that they see our lives and property as inviolable.
But in a society actually built on Deen?
That mutual trust is just the invisible atmosphere you breathe.
Now, a huge part of maintaining that contract is a concept called saber. And I really have to stop you here because I grew up hearing this word constantly. Saber.
Most people have.
Usually when someone tells me to have saber, they essentially mean chill out.
Or just suck it up.
Right, exactly. Just sit there quietly. It's God's will. Don't complain about your suffering. But the expert in me, well, the expert in you is shaking your head right now.
Vigorously shaking my head.
Yeah.
The sources correct this common translation very aggressively. Saber does not mean passive patience.
What does it mean?
It means steadfastness.
What is the real difference there?
Patience is what you do when you're sitting on a bench waiting for a delayed bus.
You're just passive.
Right. Steadfastness, on the other hand, is what a soldier does when he's standing in a trench while under fire.
Ah, okay. That is a completely different energy.
It is entirely active. It is military-level discipline. It is standing completely firm in the face of what the text calls basa, which is extreme hardship or war, and dara, which is severe adversity.
So it's not waiting, it's holding the line.
Exactly. Think about a soldier. A soldier who drops his weapon and runs away when the shooting starts isn't being patient.
No, he's a deserter.
He's a deserter. Saber is the refusal to retreat when things get unimaginably hard. It is the grit required to keep the system running when everything is falling apart.
And the sources heavily connect this to answering the call of the oppressed.
This is a really crucial point. When the oppressed call out for help, the text uses the phrase, "Oh, God save us from this town of oppressors." The sources ask a very pointed question. Who exactly is supposed to answer that prayer?
I mean, usually we think God will just send a lightning bolt.
Or an earthquake to swallow the bad guys.
Right.
But the source says no. God answers that prayer through people, through the organized community. We are quite literally supposed to be God's soldiers on the ground.
So if you hear about an injustice and you are just sitting at home praying for them, like sending thoughts and prayers on social media, but not actually doing anything physically.
Yeah. You are essentially just asking God to do your job for you.
Yeah.
Deen says, you are the answer to their prayer.
You have to step up.
Stand firm. Be steadfast. Intervene physically to stop the oppression.
That is incredibly empowering. But honestly, it's also terrifying. It puts the responsibility entirely squarely on our own shoulders.
Yeah, which naturally brings us to the most responsible and without a doubt, the most controversial part of this entire architecture.
The defense system.
Section 4, the shield of life.
Qisas, the law of retribution.
This is an area where we really have to be very precise with the language. The text here deals specifically with the law of murder.
Right, and the specific phrase translated from the Quran is, quote, "In Qisas, there is life for you."
It is a profound paradox, isn't it? How can there possibly be life in retribution? How is there life in an execution?
Yeah, taking a human life to somehow save a life. On the surface, it sounds totally contradictory.
But the sources explain it masterfully through the lens of absolute deterrence and the vital preservation of the overarching system.
Okay, let's really unpack the state versus the criminal concept here, because reading this changed everything about how I previously understood this law.
So in many traditional historical interpretations, and even in some tribal customs today, murder is treated essentially as a private dispute.
Right.
Family A kills a member of Family B. Family B gets angry and they either want violent revenge or they want a massive payout of money. It is treated as a civil matter between two groups.
Kind of like a lawsuit, like, hey, you broke my window, so pay me for the window. Or, hey, you killed my brother, so pay me for my brother.
Precisely. But the sources argue that the Quran violently rejects that. It elevates intentional murder to a crime against the state itself, against the very fabric of the system.
Because if you intentionally kill one innocent person, the text says it's as if you have killed all of humanity.
Exactly. It shatters the mutual trust, the aim of the entire society. Therefore, you cannot just settle it privately out of court.
And this leads directly to the strict ban on blood money or dayat for intentional murder.
Yes.
Now, hold on a second. I thought blood money was just a standard accepted part of Islamic law. I mean, I've definitely seen it reported in the news.
The sources draw a very sharp, unyielding line here. They argue that the Quran rigorously distinguishes between accidental killing like manslaughter and premeditated intentional murder.
Okay, let's break that down. So if I accidentally hit a pedestrian with my car...
Oh, that's a tragic accident.
Yeah.
You did not wake up intending to destroy the web of life. In that specific case, the Quran absolutely encourages paying dayat blood money to the grieving family to help them survive, to compensate for their sudden loss of income.
So that's restorative justice.
Yes. But if I actually plan it, if I stalk someone wait outside their house and intentionally shoot them...
The sources argue that for intentional murder, the Quran explicitly forbids any blood money.
Wait, why? Why take that option off the table if the family might need the money? Because of what the sources call the Chaudhry scenario. The feudal lord.
I want you to really visualize this dynamic because it happens all over the world. Imagine a small rural village.
Okay.
You have the Chaudhry. He is the incredibly wealthy, powerful landowner. He owns all the agricultural fields. He controls the local water supply. He has all the local police and politicians deep in his pocket.
On it.
And then you have a poor, landless tenant farmer.
So the power dynamic is totally lopsided from day one.
Completely lopsided.
Yeah.
And let's say the Chaudhry decides he wants the tiny plot of land the farmer lives on. The farmer bravely refuses to sell.
Right.
So the Chaudhry just kills him. Or pays a hitman to kill him.
Just cold-blooded, premeditated murder.
Exactly. Now, if the law allows blood money to be paid for intentional murder, what actually happens next?
The Chaudhry just goes to the farmer's widow. He goes to the widow. She has 3 starving kids. She has literally 0 income now that her husband is dead.
Right.
The Chaudhry looks at her and says, look, I could go to trial. Maybe I go to jail.
Yeah.
But I have incredibly expensive lawyers, so maybe I'll walk free anyway.
Hmm.
But even if I do go to jail, you get absolutely nothing. Your kids starve to death in the street.
That's a terrifying threat.
Or, he says, or I give you $1 million in cash right now. Life-changing money. Your kids go to good schools. You never go hungry again. You just have to sign this piece of paper legally forgiving me for the murder.
I mean, she has no choice. She's backed into a corner. She has to take the money to save her kids.
Of course she does. Any mother would. And so the Chaudhry just walks away, completely free.
He essentially just bought the right to commit murder.
He literally wrote a check for a human life.
It creates a totally two-tiered justice system.
It does. One system for the rich, who can just pay their way out of the ultimate consequence, and a completely different system for the poor who get executed because they can't afford the blood money.
And the sources argue that Deen, this true system of justice, just cannot tolerate this loophole.
It rots the society from the inside out. Qisas, which means strict equality and retribution, demands that the life of the powerful billionaire is taken just the same as the life of the poorest beggar.
No one is above the law.
No one. If you kill intentionally, you face the full unmitigated penalty. You absolutely cannot buy your way out of it.
So going back to that phrase in Qisas, there is life, what it really means is...
It means the society as a whole lives. The system survives. Because the Chaudhry looks at the law and knows if I kill this poor farmer, my massive bank account will not save me. I will be executed.
So he just doesn't kill the farmer.
He doesn't pull the trigger. And the farmer lives.
The deterrent saves future lives.
Exactly. It acts as an impenetrable shield for the vulnerable.
That makes so much perfect sense. It's really about the absolute integrity of the shield. Because if the shield has a giant hole in it that only the rich can squeeze through well, then it's not actually a shield at all.
Precisely. And this leads right into the text's radical point about the equality of life. The verse mentions free for free, slave for slave.
Yeah, that specific phrasing is super confusing when you first read it. It sounds like a barbaric barter system, like, hey, you killed my slave, so now I get to kill your slave.
Right. That is a very common mistranslation or a complete misunderstanding of the Arabic context. The sources clarify this beautifully. It means the social status of the victim does not lower the penalty for the murderer.
Explain how that worked historically.
So in pre-Islamic Arabia, and frankly in many hierarchical societies, even today, if a powerful nobleman killed a lowly slave, the courts would just say, well, it's just a slave. Pay a small fine to the owner and go home.
Right, because their life had unequal value.
Exactly. But if a slave managed to kill a nobleman...
Public execution immediately.
Without a trial. The text argues that this verse shatters that entire hierarchy. It establishes absolute unbending equality.
So if a free man intentionally kills a slave...
The free man is executed. Full stop. A life is a life. The social or economic status of the victim is completely irrelevant to the infinite value of their blood.
I mean, that is radical equality, especially for the 7th century when this was revealed.
Honestly, it's still radical for the 21st century. We still deeply struggle with the idea that a billionaire's life and a homeless person's life have the exact same intrinsic value in the eyes of the justice system.
We really do. So when we pull back and put this all together, we have built quite a structure here today.
We have.
It is clearly not just a set of random religious rules.
It is a complete architecture. It's a civilization building kit.
Let's quickly synthesize all of this as we head into our outro. We started today with the image as a guy standing alone in a field, constantly checking his compass, totally terrified of being 3 degrees off.
We started with the obsession over ritual.
But what we actually found in the text was something entirely different.
We found that the ritual is merely supposed to be the training ground for reality. It's not the goal, it's the warm-up. Let's look at the 4 major pillars we've uncovered today.
Killer 1.
Foundation.
Yeah.
Which is rational conviction, or enaman.
Bah!
Trusting the unchangeable moral laws of the universe, exactly like a pilot entirely trusts his instruments in a storm.
Right, it's not magic, it's absolute conviction in cause and effect. Pillar 2.
Economy. The constant circulation of wealth known as INFAC. Keeping the bag completely open at both ends, moving vital resources from the haves directly to the have-nots to prevent social gangrene.
Fixing the truck so the driver can actually work and retain his dignity.
Exactly.
Pillar 3.
The social bond, Mutual trust and honoring contracts.
Yeah.
The rope in the well. Because if we arbitrarily break our promises, the bucket falls back down and society thirsts.
And a big part of that was saber-right. Active steadfastness, holding the trench line when things get horrific.
Yes. And finally, Pillar 4.
The defense and legal system. Strict justice or Qisas.
Absolute equality before the law. No billionaire buying their way out of a murder charge. Building a shield that protects every single citizen equally, regardless of the size of their bank account.
And all of this circles back to the mission we talked about at the very beginning of the show.
The ultimate mission of Birr. True righteousness.
It all brings us right back to the pragmatic test. So let's actually apply this to ourselves right now. To the person listening to this.
The ultimate doctor analogy.
If I claim to be quote-unquote righteous, if I walk around considering myself a good person or a deeply religious person, but my own neighborhood is full of poverty and despair.
Then your medicine simply isn't working.
If we are in our homes praying intensely every single night, but we are literally afraid to walk down our own street because of unchecked crime,
Then we are just sitting by a pile of unlit wood. We are literally freezing to death right next to the fuel.
if we are agonizing over the exact phonetic pronunciation of our prayers, but the people next door are getting evicted and starving,
Then we are proudly holding up a highly polished empty oyster shell while we have completely thrown away the actual pearl.
man, that is the ultimate takeaway for me today. The sources strongly suggest that true righteousness is not at all about how holy or peaceful you feel while you are sitting alone on your prayer mat.
Yeah.
It is entirely about the real-world result.
It's strictly about the data. Look at your actual society. Look outside your window at your neighborhood. Is everyone safe? Is everyone fed? Is the system just?
And if the answer is no,
If the answer is no, then the prayer hasn't actually happened yet. You haven't even finished the job.
it completely shifts the entire focus from the individual self to the collective, from worrying about my personal salvation to ensuring our mutual security.
And that right there is the fundamental difference between religion and Deen. Religion is so often just about me trying to get myself into heaven after I die.
Right.
Deen is about us actively building heaven right here, right now, as tangible proof of the ultimate truth.
That is incredibly profound. I have one final thought to leave you with something to really chew on after this. The sources mentioned earlier that angels, which they redefine as the powerful forces of nature, naturally bow to human intellect.
Yes, that we are designed to master them.
If we are truly supposed to be the masters of these immense forces, does that actually mean that human poverty isn't just some sad, unavoidable tragedy, but a direct failure of our own intellect?
Oh, wow. That is a heavy question. Because if we already possess the resources through infaq, and we have the legal framework through Qisas and the drive through Iman,
Then poverty and massive injustice aren't just random acts of God.
no, they aren't tests falling down from the sky. They are catastrophic failures of human management.
They're failures of Deen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have all the necessary tools sitting right in front of us. We just selfishly refuse to use them.
Definitely something to think about the next time you find yourself stressing out over checking your compass. Thanks for diving so deep with us today.
It has been an absolute pleasure.
We will see you next time.